Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to the 156th edition of Show Tuesday. Shouting out to you live here from Tokyo and Fukuoka, Japan. Good morning. How you doing,
Good
Steven?
morning. Good, Christopher. How are you? Since I
I'm
switched
good.
from a standing desk to a sitting desk, we don't line up the same way that we used to on this thing. But if I
Oh,
put
let
my
me
head
sit
where
down.
yours is,
Well, that was a mistake. I almost put my back out. I'm not doing that again. There's a
the
lot
trouble
of
is if I
crap here to hurt
put
yourself on.
put my head on the screen where your head is on the screen, then you see all the crap on the floor of my office.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
all,
You don't
all the
want to see
boxes and
what's
bottles.
like chest down in here. Same thing. I've got so
For
much
sure.
crap I need to cart to the states. That's at or like behind me.
Yeah,
It's not pretty.
yeah. I think
Anyway,
one of my end of year cleaning resolutions will be to get this set up a little bit better for next year. But yeah, no, doing well. I'm glad we're doing this. I enjoy our chats on the live stream. Um, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about?
what am I thinking about? Geez, I'm thinking about 2024. Full steam ahead. I'm very optimistic about next year. 2023 has been another tough one, honestly, on many levels. But I I'm stoked for what's to come. I guess that's honestly what's on my mind. How about you?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the future as well. I think we saw some really big shifts over the last year, especially in the States when it comes to awareness and interest in traditional Japanese spirits. Um, an example being at Bart Convent in Brooklyn, where in the past people were coming up and curious about shochu, and this year they were like, "Oh yeah, we know shochu. Where's the awamori?" Right? So
Yeah,
it's moving in the right direction where there's more awareness in the trade, at least bartenders, especially about these drinks. And I just see more and more shochu showing up on cocktail menus and in places you wouldn't expect it. And that was my dream for 15 years, you know.
yeah.
I I I've wanted this. I was always so pleased in the very rare moments when I could walk into a bar somewhere in the US and find a bottle of shochu. I remember being so happy when I was in Austin, Texas one time, and I was in a college music bar near the campus and they had a bottle of Ichigo.
Hmm.
And the bartender had no idea what it was doing there, but I was happy to have it.
Hmm.
And it's shifted a lot from there, right? We're not at that orphan bottle now. It's getting on the menu. It's actually intentional, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you've already kind of shifted us into the main theme for today, which I think is smart to get right at it. This is I totally agree with you. It's been a year of recognition. It's been a year of not full understanding, but people know a little bit, and that's been
Hmm.
very exciting and gratifying. And I think it bodes well for the future. I think 2024 we're going to turn a corner. I mean, logistical issues notwithstanding for those of us in the trade who are trying to move these products internationally, but there's so much upside that I think we're within months, single digit years of realizing. And it is partly because just there's a lot more knowledge out there that's being shared, and I think people are starting to recognize the depth and the quality that is available to them if they just pay attention, and if they just devote a little bit of their mind space to it. It is a
Hmm.
complicated category all told,
Sure.
but we were talking just before the call, and you said you thought you saw a lot of concerted movement in terms of the brands that were going to have wider appeal. Would you care to expand on that a little bit?
Um, did I? Was I talking
Well,
about
in
that?
terms of like the brands that maybe are more highball focused.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think domestically here in Japan, I think what we're seeing is more and more attention being paid by distilleries to try to really they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle, right? And I think one of the first breakout brands to do that domestically in Japan, and it's we've seen similar through its sales in the States, is Colorful,
Hmm.
right? That shochu, it's 30% alcohol, so it's a little bit higher proof, I think that helps a lot with adding the sweetness, and the bright fruit flavors that come through on that spirit are very unusual for sweet potato shochu. But when that brand broke out in Japan, and Shoto's a pretty small distillery, so they don't necessarily have the scale to make tons of it.
Hmm.
But when that brand broke out, a lot of other brands started to follow. A lot of other distilleries tried to capture that, and of course there were other distilleries that were doing similar work around the same time, with Yasuda and
Yeah,
some of
Kokubu
those.
Shizo, right.
Yeah, they've definitely been leaders in this. But
Oh
now
yeah.
everybody seems to be trying, and there is no magic bullet necessarily, but Dayame was Hamada's attempt, right? And they're the biggest producer in Kagoshima,
Hmm.
so people are paying attention. Now, why they
Yeah.
took a bright fruity lychee bomb and put it into an all black bottle, I have no idea. There's nothing fruity about that packaging, but people seem to like it. I need more than just a mouthful of lychee myself, but there's definitely been a move in that direction. And I think, as we've talked about many times, the industry, of course, is hurting here in Japan. Sales just flag every single year,
Yeah.
and so these
So
distilleries
flat.
are struggling, and there's really almost this panicked attempt to find that brand that's gonna save the company, or gonna keep their sales from dropping in at the same rate that the industry does.
Hmm.
Even Tekon, who can sell everything he makes, is still constantly iterating and trying to find something new to keep the attention of
Yeah.
consumers here.
Hmm.
Uh, and he does it in a really thoughtful way, I think, where he did a collaboration with uh, what was it, a rice grower and a Thai restaurant, and made a Thai rice sweet potato shochu,
Hmm.
which certainly exists in um,
Absolutely.
other distilleries use that. But what he did is he used jasmine rice, which is usually not used. He used a higher grade, more expensive long grain rice, and that's what differentiated it. It's a really pretty shochu, and the label is basically the Thai flag
Through the
through
back of
the
the bottle.
glass.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty cool packaging. So everybody's still looking for this, and I guess it's fun to see. But it also, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, that they must be hurting, because these brands come and go, right? There's like, oh, that didn't work, we're going to try another one. And
Well, it's always something
yeah.
new, isn't it? It's almost
Hmm.
like it's like the canned coffee of the month, or the whatever, the chew high of the week. Everybody's releasing
Hmm.
new stuff all the time because they just feel like they have to have that press release has to be there in order to get the attention. And yeah, it's a never ending cycle
Yeah.
of new products, which
Hmm.
can be exhausting if you're the type of person who likes to keep track of these things. But hey, it is necessary. I suppose that's just how the cycle works here.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think we've seen all of these new brands, these what we've started to, or at least I have started to term new school sweet potato
Hmm.
shochu, and I think there's a whole lot more of that to come in
Yep.
2024. I know this is not the episode of Shochu'sday for the forward-looking projections, but we've
Sure.
seen a ton of this. There's a whole lot more, I think, that's in the
Hmm. Hmm.
works. We have seen, at least I believe that it's reaching critical mass. There's a lot more experimentation with some of these new sweet potato strains, varietal strains that are believed to be a little bit more resistant to Moto Gusarebyo, the scourge of the industry over the past 3 or 4 years.
Hmm.
That has it's a type of rot that, interestingly enough, makes the sweet potatoes smell like lychee, or however you pronounce that fruity word. And one of the big ones being Michi Shizuku. I just had the opportunity to visit Nakamura, and he's experimenting with it. I know a number of other distilleries are, and it's an interesting option. And he predicted that there would be a little bit more of that being produced as farmers see the risk being reduced in terms of whether or
Hmm.
not people are going to buy it, whether or not it is indeed more resistant to this type of rot or fungus. And so in that sense, there's
Hmm. Hmm.
more creativity, there's more iterations, there's more opportunities for new flavor profiles, and I think folks are going to be focusing on things that are. I mean, if you look at it is all about the ease of enjoyment here. I think it needs to speak to a wider audience. If you taste Nakamura's Shin Shochu from this year, the one with the beautiful like it's just a picture on the front label. There's no text there whatsoever. It's basically had somebody with a nice camera zoom in on like the stream of distillate coming through the condenser, and like it just born as shochu right at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool nighttime kind of midnight feel to it, and it's not a shin shochu in that it's not stereotypical. It doesn't come off, and you'll like this because you get kind of annoyed by all the gassiness and the funkiness of a lot of shin shochu, and stereotypically it's like, oh, that's a new make shochu. That's definitely an oyuwari application. This one's actually pretty. It's a blend of 7 shin shochu distillates, all different, from different sweet potatoes and different ratios and everything, even different ABV. He bottles at 25, and it's very accessible. Yes, works beautifully, oyuwari, but it also works really well on the rocks, and it works really well mizuwari, and it works really well with sparkling water. And so I know, it's the type of thing. Tekkan releases a shinshu. It's going to be kind of in that vein. It's not going to be as, it's going to be like, oh, that's kind of balanced and nice for a shin shochu.
Sure,
So there,
sure.
I think there's this way of thinking is pervading the industry as a whole, and I think, for better or worse, and you and I both love our old school stuff, but for better, probably on the better end of this conversation, is that it may reach a wider audience, a younger audience in many cases, and I think that's only a good thing.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I was at Koba Saketen, which I'm sure we've been to before.
Yeah.
I've taken lots of people there down here in Fukuoka. It's one of the kakuichi. So there's actually a standing bar in the back of the liquor store, and it's pretty wonderful place to visit if you're in town. But I was there with a couple of guests from out of town, and then the great thing about these kakuichi is you end up just talking to your neighbors at other tables, or you end up at a communal table, and it becomes a party.
Yep.
And nobody else was drinking shochu other than a couple of old guys in the corner. And when I started to explain to the guests and to some of the other people, about why I liked sweet potato shochu and how beautiful it could be, they were like, "What? No, my grandfather drinks that," or "No, it's always smelly and I don't like it." So I ordered a round of one of the Ikinotsuyu fruitier style of potato shochus that he makes in Amakusa and Kumamoto, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is really, really good. I didn't know shochu could be like this." And
There's
so
a
there
whole
really
generation here that's like prejudiced against it because of their dads and grandfathers.
Sure, sure. Now
Yep.
they all went back to drinking their whiskey highballs or whatever they were having, but they did enjoy a round of sweet potato shochu, and hopefully it softened their impressions of it, and it should start to appeal to a lot wider audience. I mean, I think some of those bright, fruity sweet potato shochu should be much more appealing than a whiskey highball to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But
Speaking
we'll see.
to the choir,
Yeah,
Whoa,
sure,
sorry.
sure. Oh, careful.
Just kicked a couple of bottles.
Yeah, and so Tekkan actually, with his Shinshu, he came out with all new packaging. He had been using the wristbands to denote, like the concert wristbands to denote the Shinshu on his standard labels, and they came out with an entirely new package. I don't have it with me. It's actually in the other room, but his labels are actually designed to peel off and become stickers, and you can put them on your laptop or wherever you put stickers in your home or on your equipment, which I thought was
laptop seems to be pretty common.
pretty clever. And yeah, his Shinshu again is just he and I think Furusawa we could put in this bucket as well. Are shochu makers who make Shinshu for people who don't like Shinshu, right? Because they don't like Shinshu, right? So they're going to make something that they want to drink, and I can appreciate that. So, yeah, I guess that kind of covers the Japanese side. I think, as we said, in the U.S., it was our experience. I think has been that it's just much more available. I guess one thing for me to reflect on is that earlier in the year I was invited to come in, and this for me was I think a seminal moment in shochu's growth in America was I was invited by the Jose Andres restaurant group to do staff training. Well, really a deep dive. It was an hour and a half talk and tasting, focused tasting with their national beverage team. And that's just remarkable to me that Jose Andres group is interested, right? We're talking about a Spanish chef with 3 million Instagram followers or whatever, and internationally acclaimed. He has over 100 restaurants, and
Mm-hmm.
his group has taken notice. And the more of those groups that take notice, the faster this is going to happen, right? The growth potential for shochu and awamori is 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 big. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's real reason for optimism. And what ended up happening, that was earlier in the that was late spring, early summer when I went and I did that training. It was in the rooftop bar of the Ritz-Carlton in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Who ever thought that there would be a shochu training there,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could have knocked me over with a feather.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the summer, they had opened the restaurant. It's called the Bazaar. It's on the second floor of the Ritz-Carlton Nomad, and they have a really nice shochu menu that includes like traditional serves. It's not all going into cocktails. There are
Mm-hmm.
some shochu cocktails, but it's really it's they've got a page of traditional serves. And what was amazing to me, and I just regret not making a little video when I what they had told me when I made the reservation. They said go to the lobby bar first, have a drink, and then let the let let the wait staff know that you're here for your reservation in the restaurant, and they'll just bring you up whenever you're finished with your drink.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and I sat down, and opened the menu, and page one on the left side was the cocktails, the signature cocktails for the bar, the lobby bar in the Ritz Carlton. The other page was shochu, not champagne, not wines, not beer, not other spirits, shochu, and that again floored me. When you
Yeah.
see this shift in attention to these very very well known hospitality groups, it's great to see. It's very
Yeah.
exciting.
Absolutely. And now we just got to take the last little leap here, which is to get it into the mouths of patrons.
That's
And
right.
we received a kind of, I don't know if you were on that blast, but received a little bit of a concerned email from the Awamori Makers Association, and they were like, "Wow, shipments of awamori were really down this year compared to 2022. Can you get?" And they blasted this to a bunch of people who are related to these things. And I went back and carefully explained, like, listen, I think there's a number of reasons. I think people were over inventoried from the pandemic years where they couldn't get anything, so they over ordered in 2022. So you're still dealing with inventory from those large orders. So I think there's a little bit of a correction in 2023, but there's still like the industry over here is like, okay, is this sustainable? What's going on here? Where do we put our
Mhm,
resources and that sort of thing? So yeah, we need folks out and about around the world to drink a hell of a lot more of this. So,
mhm, mhm,
yeah, it's cool to be in the know, and we really appreciate that. Please tell your friends, but
mhm.
then y'all need to buy a few bottles and make it part of your routine because
Sure.
some of these businesses are going to disappear, man, and we're all going to be worse off for it. So it's interesting. We're at this in between stage, and
Mhm, mhm.
I've got a lot to say that I think we should probably hold for a 2024, the year ahead episode of
Yep.
Shochu'sday. So I'm gonna curtail my comments right there, but
Sure.
we're at a right at the precipice of this peak, and we could really be in for a really exciting ride on the other side.
Sure. No question. I think to temper enthusiasm, a couple of trends. There's a couple of headwinds that maybe we should talk about that really over the last year or two have become apparent. And one is, let's just be honest, that alcohol makes you feel good. So does marijuana. Marijuana is now legal in many, 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 many states. And so
Sure.
there's definitely been a shift in drinking trends, especially in those states where marijuana is now legal. But people who enjoy a fine drink are still going to have a fine drink. So I think
Hmm.
and shochu is not going to be the cheap alternative when you go to the bar. Let's be honest. It's pot distilled craft spirit. No matter
Yeah.
how big the company is that's making it, it's still expensive to make. It's long fermentations. It's single pot distilled. The yields are not massive compared to what you might get out of a grain distillery or a gin or vodka distillery. So
Right. Yeah.
it's always going to cost a little bit more. So it's more of a premium product in the U.S. and it should be everywhere, I think. And that I think is one of the headwinds. The other is there's definitely been a shift globally, and I don't know how much this has hit the U.S. yet, but there's been reports about pretty substantial drops in alcohol consumption in other parts of the world due to inflation.
Mm.
People just don't have uh, the money in their pocket to go out and buy a nice bottle of something or go out and have some drinks and those kinds of things. It hit South America very hard. There was a huge report about, I think it was Diageo, who reduced their expected global earnings by something like $1 billion because of South America's flagging sales in alcohol.
Hmm.
And I think it's starting to hit parts of Asia, India, other parts of the world. And whether or not that extends into Western economies or not is yet to be seen. Fortunately, it looks like America's uh, battle with inflation is getting under control, and so hopefully prices aren't going to increase too much or at all anymore. But
Hmm.
remains to be seen. A couple of cautionary
Hopefully.
sorts of things. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, it's
Now,
not
another headwind I
economics
think is
distilled.
in the States anyway. There's a wholesale adoption of some of these new weight loss therapies, Ozempic, if that's how you pronounce it, being the one that's in the headlines all the time, and of course that affects appetite. And if you
Hmm.
don't have appetite to eat, you probably don't have appetite to drink either. So there were reports from the trade after Thanksgiving that there certainly was a reduction, not only in the amount of food that people were purchasing to prepare for Thanksgiving dinner, but also in terms of the amount of booze that was leaving the shelves, and
Hmm.
that's interesting. That's something absolutely to consider. But I think if we're I think yes, for shochu and awamori, we are talking about drinking less and drinking better.
Hmm.
And so, I currently what's available overseas outside of Japan is really only in that category.
Hmm.
So, well, it remains to be seen how detrimental that will be to the overall uptake of these drinks. But it is something to certainly keep an eye on. And marijuana, yeah, no kidding. That's
Hmm.
certainly that's going to be a threat. Uh,
Sure.
the, we'll keep an eye on it, and yeah, just remember smoking is unhealthy, kids, no matter what it is. Anyway, I
Yeah,
think we oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I had a couple people I know that were working in the trade, were working in the alcohol trade. Um, they decided to leave their jobs, and I asked where they were going. They were both going into marijuana sales rather than
Okay.
staying in the alcohol business. So
Yep. Yep.
so
No, understood.
yeah.
I think that was pretty thorough, and I think we got some of the major trends. I'm sure we're gonna think of 10 more as soon as we hop off this call. But just in the interest of keeping this a manageable link, there is a where the hell are you? There is a new pod podcast up. Am I
Hmm.
right?
There is. Yep.
Let's see, where is it? There you are. Okay, put that in the ticker thing right now.
Yeah. This is the first time I've recorded a solo episode. It was actually just sort of a stream of thought, reflection on the industry and really about succession. About we and because you and I have been doing this long enough, we know a number of distillers who the children have taken over from the parents over
Mm-hmm.
time, and that doesn't always
Yeah.
go smoothly. Sometimes it
Yeah.
does, sometimes it doesn't. And I was just talking about the challenges of doing that in small businesses, and that's I think it may not be uniquely Japanese, but it's certainly not something we see very often with US businesses or alcohol companies where they're really designed to sell, right? You grow your brewery or your distillery large enough and then you're going to get bought out. And that just
Yeah.
doesn't
Right.
really happen here unless somebody goes into distress rather than being successful. And
Sure.
so there's a different thought about transition in these multi-generational distilleries. And so I just kind of ramble a little bit about that in the episode. It was fun to record. I'd be curious to get people's feedback as to whether or not they liked it or not, because I've tried to record solo episodes before and was never happy with the result, but this time I feel like I might have crack
Crack
the
the
nut.
code.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
So
I'm folks, you know where to find it. Go to japandistilled.com is an easy way to do it, especially because the show notes are over there.
mhm.
And that's an invaluable resource when you are approaching this material. So don't I mean even if you do maybe you're an iTunes person or maybe you get your stuff from Spotify, you probably should still check out the show notes.
Yeah, for
Which
sure.
they don't actually just automatically get transmitted over there for the not in
Mhm.
their entirety anyway. So
That's right.
come back to japandistill.com to check those things out and make sure that you got the whole picture, all the context. So
For sure.
cool. That
Yeah.
one's fresh.
Yeah. We'll be doing another one soon. Probably a more formal wrap up of the year, and then be kicking off 2024. So
That's right. Got some interviews in the pipeline for early 2024. Do you have any newly opened or bottle kills?
I have
I
a
have a
bottle
newly
kill.
opened.
It's a
Oh, you
fun
got a
one. I
bottle
actually
kill?
killed a couple of days ago, and I've left it here on my desk rather than recycling the glass. But I went through a bottle of Beniotome Gold,
Oh,
which
that's an
yeah,
oldie.
yeah, this is 38% alcohol. 20% of the mash bill is sesame. So Beniotome is the only maker of sesame shochu. They're based here in Fukuoka. I visited the distillery a couple of times this year, and this one's 38% alcohol. So it's rice koji, barley, and sesame, and then 20% of the mash bill is sesame. It's one of their premium products, as you can tell from the glass. This isn't
Look at that
not
bottle.
necessarily affordable. Um, it actually comes in a box, which I have here on the floor. Hold on. Now this makes for great television, but so they really embrace the gold, right? So the bottle comes in this box,
Yeah, okay.
and it's a it's a really really nice drink. It's not their most premium product, but it's the one that wins awards and that they submit to competition and that sort of thing. Jesse Fallowitz from Mizu Shochu actually turned me on to this. This was when I met him. He said this was his favorite shochu,
Did
and I remember
did did that one's not barrel aged?
it's not. That's what because of the name Gold, I thought it was. So when I first got a bottle on Jesse's recommendation, I got it home and opened it. I was like, wait a minute, this is just
Yeah.
stronger, higher proof Beniotome. What's wrong?
Yeah.
I've learned to really, really appreciate it. It's great oyuwadi. It's lovely just on a big ball of ice. So worked my way through that bottle over the last couple of months and enjoyed it. Fortunately, I live here in Fukuoka. They're based here. I can go get more.
There you go.
Yeah. How about you? What you got?
Mine is a newly opened. I went out, finally got to meet Devender, the famous
Oh,
bartender from Hong Kong. He was in town, and a friend of mine, Mariko Noguchi, set up a little lunch date for the three of us. And we brought booze to the restaurant, and they didn't kick us out. One of the bottles that made an appearance is this rice shochu called Yamahotaru from Takata Shuzojo, and it's a nice, bright, fresh clay pot fermented rice shochu, kind of very old school. This is bottle 1,569 at 8,530. So they made a few kame of it,
hmm.
and 25% ABV. It's pretty good. This one, I took the rest. I was asked to take the rest of the bottle home, so I did. I abided, and I'm slowly working my way through it. It's
And
pretty nice.
is it a Kuma shochu, rice shochu from
Yeah,
Kumamoto?
it's a
I'm
Kuma.
actually
Yep.
not familiar with that distillery, at least not that I remember.
They're the folks who do Jin, that gin brand.
Okay.
I met the woman who runs the place now when I was at Ven Expo in Bordeaux several years ago. They had a booth, and I was just assisting with all the shochu makers and helping them translate what they were trying to say to this trade audience. And that's where I kind of first got to know that distillery. They do a bunch of really interesting things, and obviously they're not minuscule because they were able to have
Hmm.
a booth at Vin Expo out in France. So,
Sure. Yeah.
but yeah, good people, good drinks. And this
Cool.
one, I didn't realize it at first, but this one got a gold at the Tokyo Whiskey and Spirits competition in 2022. So one or both of us might have actually
Might have judged it.
might have actually tasted through it. Who knows?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. So I think that's it for today. it is it for
This is
today.
our
Yeah.
last one of the year. Is that right? Might
Next week it's
probably.
going to be the 27th. That's right. I will be in Okinawa at that time.
Okay.
We're doing our annual Christmas, sojourn to just get off the airwaves for a little bit. So yeah, I won't
Okay.
be.
Well,
I'll be
enjoy
mostly incommunicado at that time. How about you?
enjoy Okinawa. I have no travel plans coming up because there's going to be an awful lot of it in January, February, March.
Hmm.
So just gonna hunker down a
Okay.
little bit,
Okay.
clean this office, and start the new year fresh.
Amen to that. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for joining us, either live or on archive. You can find us at various points on the internet, usually under the Japan Distilled or our own individual monikers. And it's been a hell of a year. Looking forward to 2024. From both of us here in Japan to all of you all around the world, all the best to you and yours, and the heartiest and most heartfelt of kanpais.
And Kanpai to uncoordinated Christmas sweaters. Well done, Christopher.
Cheers, man.
Green and red. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.